Stygian, Reign of the Old Gods, wears its CRPG roots very much on its multi-tentacled sleeves. And the game, for good and ill, emulates the old school style of titles such as Baldur's Gate, Fallout, and the like. And if you grew up playing those games, you'll fit right into the eerie world, but if you didn't, the game kind of leaves things a little too open, I feel, in that regard. But the story is that we are in the famous town of Arkham, and one day, known as the Black Day, the entire town basically gets ripped from our reality, and now is somewhere else. And of course, things have descended pretty much into anarchy over the year. You have monsters and psychotic people roaming the land, and you have been given a vision of possibly a way out or to something worse. And it's your job to kind of make sense out of everything the only way we know how: old school CRPG exploration and combat. As always, you'll begin by picking your character and defining their stats and traits. And as with typical CRPG design, the game does kind of front load everything for you, with each archetype having several different backgrounds, which in turn affects things further. And for fans again of the old school RPGs, you're going to find a lot of little details you can pick and choose your way through here, as well as of course stat allocation. And as always, expect to make game-changing or game-affecting decisions right from the get-go. And as with these kinds of games, I always wish developers would do a little bit more to, backing away from front-loading the design. As there's a lot here that you're probably not going to realize what you're doing and whether or not it's helping or hurting you until it is way too late to make those changes. To the game's credit, you won't get experience by grinding out combat. Instead, it is all progress-based, as well as performing successful skill checks based on whatever your stats and abilities are. Now, with that said, the basic gameplay loop of Stygian is a split again between exploration and combat, and we'll talk about combat in a minute. But the world itself is going to be giving you linear quests, and then it'll be up to you to decide how you approach or complete them, as well as many side quests that seem to be tied either to time or by what order you complete them in. With the world itself, you'll also have to manage hunger, as well as collecting resources and healing and offensive items. In the world here, everything is basically bought and sold through cigarettes, as obviously money has no value here. And the game again really pushes into old school CRPG design. Everything is kind of open, and other than story events and beats, you are able to go wherever you want, and that can also mean getting into trouble if you're not careful. And when that trouble happens, you're going to be into turn-based combat. Every character moves based on their speed, and you can see the turn order in the upper right. We have AP to determine actions, as well as items that you can use and equip. Combat, to be fair, is a little bit on the confusing side of things. The tutorial really didn't explain too much in terms of options and what various elements meant. With that said though, developers have been patching the game after the time of this recording, so there is a chance that what you see may be slightly different from the main version of it. But you can retreat from combat at any time, and the objective of course is to either kill or rout the opposing force. Now, combat itself appears to be with fixed encounters, at least in the main town of Arkham. The game does hint, or definitely show, that you'll be leaving the town to explore the surrounding areas. So I don't know if there are random encounters or not, but as we've said, you do not gain experience from fighting, only by making progress in the world itself. One thing that we didn't get too far into when we were showing this off is that there is actually a sanity mechanic, kind of similar to something like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. that when your sanity gets too low, the game will start to affect things in strange ways, such as messing with your dialogue options or having you hallucinate, which is always a good sign, right? But with that said, we're going to do our quick Patreon supporter and sponsor shout out now, and when we come back, we'll kind of talk about the good and bad of the game with how much it adheres to old school CRPG design. And now for a quick thank you to our current Game Wisdom sponsors and Patreon supporters. And if you'd like to continue the discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. A major theme of this look at Stygian is that the developers were 100% inspired by, again, classic CRPGs. And while there's nothing wrong with that, I kind of feel that they missed some important lessons in terms of onboarding and playability for new players. The game pretty much assumes that you've played all those old games before in terms of setting up characters, how traits work, and just the general moment-to-moment gameplay. And I don't think it does a good enough job of easing new players in if they didn't grow up with those games. Like I said, similar to titles like Baldur's Gate and Fallout, this is a game that you can pretty much walk into your own death trap and not have any idea about it unless you've played those older games before. And while I really did enjoy the setting, I just found things a little bit too old school for my tastes. But again, please keep in mind that I have no fond remembrance of CRPG design. So I don't have that background to appreciate the old school nods and quirks of that system. So, with all that said, Stygian Reign of the Old Ones is going to be one of those games that your overall enjoyment of it is going to depend on whether or not you grew up playing those old school games. If you are a fan and looking for something with that Lovecraftian twist to it, then Stygian is definitely there. But if you didn't, and you don't have a predisposition for that kind of design, then this is going to be one of those games that I suggest you avoid. One thing that I've been hearing people complain about as an important point is that there have been discussions about the game kind of just ending, and that there really isn't a solid, satisfying conclusion. The game may have been saving things for the future, or DLC, or something like that. Unfortunately, again, with this being a first look, I don't have hands-on impressions to that point, but that is something important to point out. With all that said, I would like to thank developers for giving me a press key to check it out. Like I said, I didn't grow up playing CRPG, so it's not exactly the best fit for me. But if you are working on a game that you'd like me to take a look at for the channel, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Come back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where in the art and science of games. Once again, this has been Stygian, Reign of the Old Ones, and I will see you all next time. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoy things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel linked down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.